Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Senior Lakers Insider for Clutch Points. And today on the show, we will be talking basketball. It has been that time of year where everything is so solely focused on what the Lakers have done, what they haven't done, what they might do, what they might not do, what we would like them to do, all of that stuff. And there'll be some conversations about it. But I kind of realized last night, especially at the tail end of the show, I haven't really talked much about the team as they're currently constructed, because I've just kind of assumed that they aren't going to be, as currently constructed for very long. So we're going to, and Raj is here as well. We are going to talk about the team and where they kind of stand right now as currently constructed. Then from there, we'll talk about the team as what we consider realistically constructed, and those responses will vary. And then we'll talk about the team as they are hopefully constructed, what we would like to eventually see the Lakers become, whether it's this offseason or at some point, at some point in the season, what we would eventually like this team to look like. Again, those answers, those responses might vary, but we'll see what those parts of the conversations go. But I do want to start with how they are currently constructed. Before we get to any of that, Raj, I know we normally do plugs at the tail end of the show, but you wrote an actual, like, fully formed profile feature on Darius Bazley, who is, I think, one of the higher rated presences on this Vegas Summer League team. I haven't read it yet because it literally just dropped, so I have that built-in excuse. But one, congrats on releasing the piece and all of that good stuff. It's been really cool watching you grow in this industry. And two, without giving the piece away, why don't you go ahead and try to convince people to read it. Try to convince me to read it, because you know how much I hate reading.
Once again, it dropped this morning. But I shared it out, a few minutes ago. It dropped this morning on the site. But yeah, I tweeted out kind of the preview was the Vegas Summer League is a place where a lot of dreams begin. But it's also a place a lot of dreams are rekindled, and it's a place where a lot of older players are trying to get back into the league, which is a lot more difficult, sometimes than it seems, no matter how many numbers you put up overseas. So I thought Bazley did a great job, I think, just explaining his situation, the opportunity that he has, and why, he's not taking it for granted, and kind of what he's looking to show people this summer and has shown. And his coach, Lindsey Harding, I think, is an amazing person if you hear her talk. And she was glowing about Darius Bazley as well. So I got to, cover him for a few games down in Vegas in the heat, the hot weather. Glad to be back home. But it was fun writing that, fun covering him, and a guy that, we're going to talk about the team today. And I hope he's on it in some way, or, in some capacity. However they can find a way to get him on the team. But yeah, so if you can, go check that out. The link is on my, on my Twitter page, X page. But yeah, Bazley's an awesome, cool talent. He's 25 years old, which is young in, like, human sense, but is ancient in Summer League senses. But yeah, just an interesting person. And I think a guy who has a really great perspective on what it takes to make it in the league, stay in the league, and continue to be successful.
We'll talk about Bazley potentially on the team, and either are realistically constructed or hopefully constructed. Unfortunately for him, right, he can't be a two-way player, which severely, unfortunately, limits his options. He's going to have to, now he could be in the G League, and it would be good for, at the very least, for the Lakers to keep him on their G League team so they could keep a close eye on him, or, employ a scout department so they could keep a close eye on him no matter where he goes. But beggars and choosers, I guess.
God. You just had to throw a shot, like.
But no, I like I said, I really look forward to reading it, and I'm with you for the most part. As far as like, I would like to see the Lakers try to retain Bazley. We'll just see to what extent or what that would actually look like. Let's dive on in, and before we do, a quick reminder: please do hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button if you guys are here on YouTube. If you guys are on Twitter, head on over to youtube.com/@Lakers Lounge to find the show there. And then if you guys are listening in the morning via pod, please hit subscribe wherever it is that you get your podcast, preferably on Odyssey, and then 5-star reviews, yada, yada, yada. All right. By the way, call to action probably shouldn't be yada, yada, yada. But I'm not good at doing those things. I don't like doing those things. So yada, 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 everybody. Yeah, let's dive in. We'll go. Do you want to talk about this, like the Lakers as a basketball team in their own context, or would you rather put them into tiers? You know, within at least the conference. If you want to do the league, we could do the league, I guess. But which would you rather do? How would you like to do this?
Yeah, I think they're kind of blended together. I mean, I don't know how you could speak about them in their context without also understanding where the league has gone, what teams have done. But I think it's better to analyze who we have and what they are versus, what we hope, they could be. You have to kind of analyze what the players are today and how they fit today. And it's already July 17th. I can't imagine very much else is changing before the season starts. But yeah, I think that would be the best place to kind of go with. I think you can blend both of them together, which I think matters.
All right, cool. So no response there, basically, from Raj. Let's start then. Let's start with I guess we'll talk about this team, and then after kind of analyzing them by positional group, then at the tail end of each segment, we'll talk about like where they do currently rank, and then if as realistically constructed, where they would rank after a couple, moves that are fairly easy for them to accomplish. And then as hopefully constructed, that's where we talk about overall ceiling of this team this season. All right, positional groups. Let's start with the guards. And I'm going to lump Luka in with the guards there because he's going to have the ball so much.
Okay.
Austin is a guard. Gabe Vincent is a guard. Bronny James is a guard. Jordan Goodwin is a guard. Shake Milton is a guard. I don't think I'm missing anybody, right?
No, JHS is on.
Oh, Dalton. I guess Dalton. Are we consider Dalton a wing or a guard? I think he's more of a wing.
I think he's a guard on this team.
Okay.
I don't think there are forward minutes for him, so he's a guard on this team.
All right, so he's a guard too.
Yes.
The last few names of that guard list are pretty depressing, but the names at the top of it are really bleeping good, right? Luka Doncic is one of the best, point guards / creators in the sport. Yeah. Austin Reaves is coming off of his latest best season ever, and I think he can go another level up. Overall, how confident do you feel about the Lakers guard situation?
So I guess even detailing it even further than just guards, I'm going mostly you think of a guard, you think of shot creation, you think of guys with the ball in their hands. I feel pretty good about that side of the floor in terms of what we have in that capacity. You can even lump LeBron's not a guard, but you can lump him with the skill sets of those other guards, right? He's going to have the ball in his hands, assuming he's on the team, but he'll have the ball in his hands and be one of the shot creators as well. Luka's, to me, the best player in the world at that skill set. Austin, I think, is good enough as a creator and a scorer to kind of fill. I like our position there. To me, the danger part is the backup guard position, where Gabe Vincent, I think, is a fine rotational player, at least in a regular season sense. But the minutes after that, I mean, you just can't. As much as I like what Bronny's done this summer, Bronny can't be relied on in an 8 to 9 man rotation. Shake Milton, I don't believe, will be on the team. And Dalton Connect, I struggle to think that he'll have a consistent role with the kind of defensive struggles he's had. And the other side is also a concern to me. Luka Doncic, Austin Reaves, that's a tough defensive backcourt. I don't really I lump Luka as a forward defensively, but even removing him from the equation, Austin Reaves, Gabe Vincent, who's again a fine defender, but at 6'1" or whatever height he is, wherever he's listed at, Anthony, if you see Gabe Vincent as person, it is nowhere near that height. So I think he's listed at 6'3", 6'4", maybe.
Yeah.
He is not that at all, nowhere near.
I
Which
wanna know if,
respect,
like, when they were measuring him, he just like jumped, like,
right?
because I there are very few players whose heights are as far off from their realities as Gabe's seems to be.
Yeah.
But anyway, go on.
Yeah. So him, it's funny, just not a little off topic, but in Vegas, I saw Tyrese Maxey walking around. I was like, holy crap, that dude is short. Like he is way shorter than what he's listed at and for what he can do in the league. But yeah, Gabe Vincent is a lot shorter than you'd like, especially defensively at that position. Luka's not going to take a big defensive role, even if he takes a jump in terms of effort. And I think Austin can guard, at least gives effort. But again, as your best guard defender, is a tough place to be. I think that's where the biggest need is, honestly. You need a defensive guard / wing to guard other teams on the ball. And that's where my concern is, especially at that position. The offensive side, Anthony, I have very little concerns about a Luka Doncic, Austin Reaves, backcourt, quote unquote, to carry you with LeBron James helping out as a playmaker. I have very little concerns offensively. Defensively is my concern here. And I think that's where they needed to really, fix this offseason. And they haven't yet. I like Laravia, who's I think more of a wing defensively. But yeah, that's where I kind of see the guard place right now. In a regular season kind of capacity, I think it's fine. You can win 45 to 50 games with this guard tandem. But in the playoffs, I think it gets even more difficult with the matchups and the, more direct kind of game plans that you need to win in the playoffs. But just in a regular season sense, I think it's fine.
So I have a rule as a husband, or even like as a person, where fine as a word triggers me.
Okay.
If I ask Jen, hey babe, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And she goes, I'm fine. I'm like, oh, I need to address this, because not only is she good, but she also doesn't want to talk about it. That's the part of fine that really kind of gets me, is that, because the one thing, Jen and I have been together for 21 years now. And I would say the reason that we have been able to stick together that long is our level of communication. So when she says I'm fine and she doesn't want to have a conversation beyond that, that's where I'm like, well, we're not then, so
right. Yeah.
So when you say the Lakers guard rotation is fine, that to me, if I'm to extend that, my analysis of my typical situation, would mean they aren't good, and we don't necessarily want to talk about it.
That last part is true. Yes. Not wrong. No.
It's just kind of tough because we're on a podcast and we have to talk these things through, Ross.
You wanted me to talk about Gabe Vincent for the third straight summer, Anthony. Like, this is 3 straight summers of where I have to examine Gabe Vincent as a basketball player. No, I think you're right. And I think what I mean by, I guess, fine is when you start off that sentence with Luka Doncic and Austin Reaves, the bar for the rest of it is pretty low, right? Like it shouldn't have to be that high. And that's where I say fine. They kind of step over the bar. You know what I mean? They don't fully step over it, but it's enough of a bar where I'm looking at other places on the roster where I go, oh, that needs help. But here I have Luka Doncic and Austin Reaves in this group. That's fine. There's other places I gotta look.
Well, no, the way I would kind of take it is if that's the starting point, and if you're not good with that being the starting point, that's kind of a fuck up, like that means there's clearly some work that you got to do. Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at is that like I'm mostly with you. I don't know that I would say fine. I'm really nervous about the athleticism with this group.
It's a roster thing,
You know,
yeah.
like Jordan Goodwin is probably the best athlete here. Maybe Dalton would be the best athlete here. And like that's just like it's not enough.
Adio
You know, the
Tiero, who's a guard, actually, we forgot to name him, but he's our first round pick. He's Adio Tiero.
yeah, but I'm not really counting him. You
Okay.
know, he's not going to play this year. So,
Ooh.
um,
At all? Yeah. I mean, I hope he at least finds some way into the road.
where?
I mean, he's our most athletic guard. Like that's a true statement. He is our most
Yeah,
athletic guard today.
he's
He
our
might be the
most
most
athletic person.
right.
Like,
Yes, I still give
but
LeBron the edge there, but yes, you're right.
but yeah, I would say that if the Lakers do add another guard, or hopefully when the Lakers add another guard, it has to be of the athletic variety who is, you know, better than Gabe, better than uh Goodwin, better than like it makes me nervous that I don't want the Lakers to waive Jordan Goodwin. That's not a good sign because if they waive Jordan Goodwin, it opens up the full biannual exception. But if they waive Jordan Goodwin, they lose their
Right.
guard athleticism, especially lead guard athleticism. Like, yes, Thiero is technically a guard, but he and Dalton are kind of more shooting guards, which is more of a wing position than it is a creator position. So, um, you know, same goes for Laravia and so on and so forth. From their creator standpoint, or from the guys who will be guarding creators standpoint, the Lakers desperately need more athleticism. And I don't know if you saw this, but I believe Gary Payton II changed agencies
Mm-hmm.
and is now repped by Bill Duffy. And you know that raised an old like an ear ticked up. Like, oh, how about that? Now I think that's somebody that is worth keeping an eye on,
Yeah.
and he would immediately inject elite athleticism. Elite athleticism. Now he's kind of guard Jared Vanderbilt, but he is just like one of the best athletes, like a 98 to 99th percentile athlete at the lead guard position. And that's the exact kind of player that the Lakers would need.
Gary Payton, is kind of a rich man's Jordan Goodwin, which is kind of interesting, right? I think they
Mm-hmm.
both have very similar type games. He'll take a corner three, but it has to be wide open, no one near him, right? Which is very useful when you're playing next to Steph Curry. And I thought you saw him play in Portland, and it's much different, and it's why he went back to the Warriors and was successful again there. But the Lakers, I think, have that type of at least shot creation that can help. I mentioned this on Jovan's show yesterday, Anthony. I think Bazley versus Goodwin is an interesting conversation. We can get to the forwards later, but I think that's fascinating. Goodwin's contract is only guaranteed, I believe, until January. Only $200,000 is guaranteed. So that's an interesting camp battle that I would look at. But yeah, they need more players like Goodwin, and I think GP2 would certainly fit that. He's also a great ball screen guard, understands spatial awareness in terms of how to cut a lob threat at the guard position, which don't remember the last time we had that, but that's what he is. And so that'd be, very helpful with Luka too. But yeah, they needed to shore this up like 2 weeks ago. Honestly, I think that's the Melton conversation. It's GP2, and then from there, the players after that, most of them aren't better than Gabe Vincent, and I think that's the part that's tough as well when you examine. But I think Goodwin's helpful. Again, these are in regular season context, which I know is tough to say when you have a Luka Doncic, LeBron James team, but you also need to get through that 82 game grind. That's where I think those two guys are helpful. But GP2 would be awesome. I'm just tired of these guys being linked to us, and then 3 weeks later, it's like, yeah, well, it didn't work out. He went back to the Warriors or whatever it is. But they
Yeah.
need a guy at that position that does that. He was in the league because he guards.
Yeah.
And one of our guards does that right now.
So we'll talk about realistically constructed, and I think he's a realistic addition. I
Yeah.
would consider him realistic. He's not a hopeful addition. So we'll talk about him and what the roster would look like as under those circumstances. Now let's talk about the wings here. And in this case, I kind of disagree about including Dalton and Thiero as guards
Okay.
because they aren't ball handlers. Like when I say guard, I mean like ball handlers.
Sure. Shot creators. Mhm.
And I can't quite lump LeBron into that group either, right? Because he's not like the 1920 year, he was essentially their point guard. That's going to be Luka this year. He's going to be operating as that in that capacity offensively. So we'll talk about wings here. And of those, like I'm gonna include Dalton in this group. I'm gonna include Thiero in this group. I
Okay.
would say Laravia is a wing here.
Yes.
He's playing out of position, but I would include Rui as a wing here. Um, anybody else that I'm missing there? Are you
Vando.
banking on? Oh yeah, I keep like wanting to forget him. And then, do you want to include Swider in this group?
Sadly, no. Don't want to include Swider. Um, had a great summer league. It was awesome to watch him, but no, we'll keep him out of it for now.
All right, so we'll keep Swider out of it for right now. We'll keep Bazley out of it because this is currently constructed.
Right.
We could talk about him and they're realistically constructed because I think that's a move that could be done yesterday.
Yeah.
But yeah, the wings here. Again, it is Laravia, it is Vando, it is Rui, and it
Yeah.
is Dalton / Thiero. How do you feel about that wing group?
I'm gonna put Tiaro to the side for
Okay.
now. I'm heavily
See,
concerned.
like he did, like I just said a second ago, he's not going to play. Where are the minutes
Well,
coming
it's
from?
well, that's what this is my point where I'm going with this. I'm very concerned about the defensive side of the basketball, and this is putting contextualizing LeBron being 41 needs to be able to load manage through the regular season. I just don't. It's just been too long now. I just don't know how you trust Vando to have a consistent role, let alone stay healthy, right? Number one, stay on the court. Number two, and then be consistent enough, have enough production, just be able to produce at the level they need. And from there, Rui's your best wing in that capacity of two-way wing. This is a place that's extremely concerning. I think Laravia helps a lot. I talked about him as a connector. I think he's better defensively than given credit for. Very smart on the defensive end. But again, not a super athlete either. And I just think our athletic floor is so low on that end. If LeBron's not a bludgeoning athlete going down the court, everything else is very slow. None of our, I was talking about this about Bazley, but none of our other wings, Anthony, are more athletic than their position other than LeBron, right? Rui's
Mhm.
bigger, but that's kind of means slower in this context. Vando, I have no idea. You're trying to forget him. I'm trying to not sure what I'm doing with Vanderbilt right now.
Neither the
But
Lakers.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was a bad sign, Raj, when they signed Laravia,
yeah,
and I was like, there are some athletic concerns there. Lakers fans was like, no way. And I'm like, no. He's like maybe a little athletic compared to some of the guys you have been watching, but compared to the rest of the NBA, there are some
right.
athletic concerns about Laravia. He doesn't have a really big frame. He's not the most like physically imposing player. He can get up on occasion if he gets a good runway, and he's got good feet, which allows him to be the shooter that he is. But he's not watch the arrow. So those of you who were in my mentions yelling at me saying that I was only saying Laravia isn't an athlete because he's white. I'm like, no, he's not. It's part of it, but like there's
It doesn't hurt.
yeah, that's the starting point. If anything, it's like I would be looking to give him the surprising athleticism
Right.
moniker,
Sneaky, sneaky
the
athlete.
sneaky athleticism moniker, but I couldn't. Like it was just like he's fine. He's an okay athlete. He's a little bit more athletic than his predecessor, right? And Dorian Finney-Smith in terms of foot speed and stuff. But overall, he's not an athlete. So that to me is again a real concern here is that like and I you kind of you were a little nervous to go there, but I think this is a bad wing group. Like I
Yeah,
think
which
compared to what other teams are offering, this is a bad wing group.
is funny because that wing group starts with LeBron James, and then it just like after
Well, he's a
that, it's
forward. Like I have him as like because he
yeah.
plays, like I would. He's not guarding small forwards
That,
this year. He's
that
guarding power forwards.
That's fair. And I think like some of these, like again, I think Rui on a team where there's more athleticism spread throughout the roster, I think Rui could be a very helpful power forward, right? It's when you need Rui to be a 3 wing, like that's what I think is really difficult. And I think that's where he struggled. LeBron's been a 4 for a while now. Obviously, AD's been a center for a while now when he was on the team. And so Rui is kind of pushed up to a 3. I would like Rui to come back. Like we have these skinny Rui jokes every summer. Like these photos come out and
Yeah.
and of Rui, and I'm like, man, it'd be nice if he
At
became
some point,
slender.
people are gonna realize like that the international players, like Rui is Japanese,
Mhm.
Doncic is Slovenian. Like these guys who leave America for a little while and then get really skinny. At some point, we're gonna realize like we're the problem.
Right?
Actually,
Yeah.
like,
They're like, yeah, I was drinking wine every night, lost all my weight. Yeah, didn't matter. Uh, but yeah, I would like Rui to, I guess, slim down, but I think he likes kind of having the extra power, which is fine. Again, I think that's a helpful player in the right context. But yeah, this wing group, I really have concerns athletically. Again, I think Laravia is I think he's a solid defensive player in the way that he plays. He accepts contact well, but yeah, just I think defensively, if you group this together, it's a very unathletic group. When you take out LeBron and you take out Thiero, especially, that's a place I thought they needed to really fix, and that's why I was very pro Wiggins, which I found in Vegas was actually not really the general take around there, but
yeah,
I just feel like Wiggins is just his athleticism alone fills a lot of the needs that this team like desperately has to have on their roster. But without him, like it's really bleak on the wing in terms of athleticism. Teams are able to kind of power through you. Who do we have that can slide their feet that's also has long arms? Like that's the part that I'm that's why I'm so fascinated by Bazley, and I've focused on him this summer. But uh obviously we're not putting him in this group. But yeah, just athletically, that's my concern. This team should be able to score enough. Like Rui, LeBron, Laravia are all really solid offensive talents. Taking Vando out from this, of course. But yeah, defensively, I think is the concern, and it's why I think JJ went to the rotations he did. Doesn't really trust the backup wings that we had on the roster, but yeah, defensively and athletically, that's where they needed to really fix and make a trade, a consolidation trade in some way. And it's middle of July. That hasn't happened yet. But if this is the wing depth, is a little
little.
concerning.
You're always so like nice, like I know it's a concern, man. Like
It is a concern.
the fact that I have people saying to me like, should Jared Vanderbilt start in Rui's place, or the
I
fact
want
that
to
I
know
have
your
people
answer. Wait, I want to know your answer to that. Like, what's your response to
of
that when people ask
should
you that?
Vanderbilt play is my answer, not like like, like
You want his name heard in the starting lineup? Like what?
like could you just and at forward out of some college that I forgot. This guy brags about making a right-handed layup. Everybody give it up for Jared Vanderboom. Like it's just it would just that's not what I need from my like it's just he shouldn't start. He should barely play. He's a 10 to I would say probably 10-minute player tops because I still don't know whether he is more detrimental to the Lakers offense or the other teams.
Here's the issue. The issue though is he needs to be like if this is the roster, okay, and we're going
I
as
guess we
currently.
should have also mentioned Bronny. Did I mention Bronny in the guard rotation?
I mentioned that
Um,
he should not play because he's just not ready yet.
yeah, I don't think he's ready
And
yet, but
he
I
won't
know
be ready.
I like just making sure that because I don't think I listed him, and he has an NBA contract, so we needed to list him. He's just not, I think, going to factor into the rotation this year.
He's he at least he shouldn't. If he does, something went terribly wrong, or right, who knows? But no, the issue I think with Vando is if this is the team currently constructed, we need him to be good. Like this team, they absolutely need him to be playable. I think a few years ago I mentioned that I forgot what the roster was, but I looked at it and went, Cam Reddish is going to need to play, and everyone told me I was absolutely insane. And I think Reddish started the second week, and
Yeah.
I ran my small little victory lap around that. It wasn't an enjoyable lap, but it was one that I did run. But
It was a very one of those few victory laps where you're crying, but
right,
like not like happy tears. You're like actually like sobbing while you're
right.
running the victory lap. Like, yeah, I was right. I was right.
Yeah,
I
like
should.
losers, look at that.
You
But no,
made me do this. Not only am I crying, but I'm running, which is
right.
how I normally run.
Exactly. So, but no, that's why I think like Vando has to play if this is the roster, if this is the makeup, if this is the wing rotation that we are going to the season with. Vando not only has to play, he has to be good. Like he's a really talented on ball to me, like pest of you can throw him on a guy, pick up full court, knock the ball away, kind of use his athletic tools to kind of to play very physical defense. He's just lost a lot of that. But yeah, I think if this is the team, Anthony, he has to play, right? Like who do we have that can do his role unless Bazley is able to step in and is trusted in that way. But that's kind of the tough part about this team is Vando will be relied on because there's just no one else to put in that position of a defensive wing that can guard multiple positions. Like Laravia, maybe I have to see a little bit more in terms of what he can do defensively, but Vando fills that role and it's something we need. As much as we laugh about it, his offensive struggles, refusal to shoot from everywhere on the court, including layups. Uh, we need his defense if this is the roster, but hopefully we don't. I just currently constructed. Vando has to play 15, 20 minutes. You just need a defensive athletic guy. And if not, it's going to be a struggle to survive on that end.
Well, whose minutes is he taking then? If he's playing 15, 20 minutes, you have between your wing positions, you have basically 48, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or your wing / forward positions, you have the 48 minutes at small forward, you have the 48 minutes at shooting guard, right? So that's 96 minutes. You know that I'm not even going to lump power forward minutes in here because you know LeBron's going to take the vast majority of those. So 96 wing minutes there. And if Vando is taking 20 of them, that doesn't
Well,
leave enough for, unless you have like Dalton not playing is essentially what it is. Like if you have Vando playing that many minutes, Dalton is not in the rotation, which I'm also, I guess, fine with. It's would you rather die by great white shark or grizzly bear, I guess.
I would expect Dalton to not be in the rotation to start the season, and I'm also putting in that there's going to be the Lakers aren't going to be fully healthy throughout all this. There's going to be players missing here and there, and that's where I think Vando's just. I think his skill, Anthony, is he has a high motor, at least when he's right, and that's something that's useful in an 82 game regular season. Guys with high motors get paid,
Mhm.
and sometimes they trickle off in the playoffs when everyone's playing at the same level. And he's like, "Hey, he's running the same speed as me. Shoot, like I
Yeah.
can't, I can't pass him
Yeah.
anymore." But in the regular season, I think that matters. I would expect Dalton to be a specialized player where they throw in for offensive burst, not really a full 8 to 9 man rotation. I don't even expect Vando to be in their 8-man rotation, but 15, 20 minutes, you can like quibble with the total minute mark. I think a defensive wing is necessary. And you list our defensive wings on the team. It's Vando, it's Laravia, it's Rui. Am I missing anybody as a defensive wing? LeBron,
No.
but I'm removing him from this equation. Uh yeah, Vando, Rui, and Laravia. It's a tough place to be. Of who do you throw on the opposing guy's defensive wing? That's why I think Vando is important defensively.
The big thing with Vando is the paint finishing. The layups need to get a lot better. The dunks, it's wild, Raj. We were marveling at this all year last year. You watch what he does to get the basketball and how athletic he looks while he's getting the basketball. And then you see what he looks like once he has a basketball in his hands, and it's night and day, right?
Y-
So I still like the athleticism is still there. I know that a lot of people are kind of saying like it's really dipped because of the surgeries and stuff. And I think he's lost a step, maybe half of a step. But the biggest thing is like he just completely lacked any confidence last year, and he was reluctant to jump with a basketball in his hands. And
y-
he needs to be able to get up above the rim. And at the very least, if you try to dunk it, it's like Stu Lance always says, if you try to dunk it, you're going to get fouled. And I think part of it is that he doesn't want to go to the free throw line. And he would rather try to avoid contact than try to play through it and get to the free throw line if he has to. And I think that's a big problem for him. But if he could, become a decent free throw shooter so that he's not so afraid of shooting those free throws, and then also be willing to go up there and initiate contact and draw contact, rather than try to avoid it, I think that would make him playable. Like I saw somebody say, if he was a 35 3-point or 35% 3-point shooter, he would never leave the court. If I was like 50 pounds lighter, I would be on ESPN. It's just not, that's an if that isn't even worth considering. But to me, a realistic goal for him is to become not a negative presence in the paint. Like if he could operate, like I know that they sometimes were trying him in the dunker spot. And the problem is he doesn't like to dunk. He doesn't try to get up and dunk because he's afraid to get to the free throw line. But if you put him in the dunker spot and he becomes a threat to actually dunk, now we're talking about a basketball player who makes a little bit of sense, because now when you're playing defense, you don't have to make up for so much on the other end. Now your defensive effort, your defensive impact can start to become a net positive rather than just making up for your negative offensive impact.
It's funny because, when I hear the numbers 35% and stuff like that, Vandal could shoot 48% from three and no one's going to guard him. It's just, so the defense,
0.7 attempts per
right. So the defense would not change. I have a theory on this, and it's interesting. I was thinking about the players in Vando's ilk that I've watched just in my time. The only guys I can really think of that are perimeter players, not perimeter, but are not centers, basically. So everyone non-center that refuse to shoot are Jared Vanderbilt and Ben Simmons. I was trying to think of other ones. I have a theory that once you refuse to shoot from one place of the court, it seeps into everything else. Once you refuse to look at the rim from this spot, now the 16-footer all of a sudden becomes, well, if I'm refusing to shoot out there, then here's not that much better, right? And so it just becomes this thing where it eventually trickles now to the basket, where Ben Simmons now is in this case where this is a superstar. This is a guy who was an all-star, decided not to take any shots from anywhere and is now scared to take layups because he doesn't want to get to the line. Same issue as Jared Vanderbilt. But yeah, if he can become a threat at the paint, which I'm not even asking for that. I'm asking for the defense to return to the point that it was. We were throwing him in on Brandon Ingram. We were throwing him on Luka Doncic, when he was on Dallas, and he was a very helpful defender. I remember when he got him, we were like, finally, defensive wing. We've been missing one. We were throwing Patrick Beverly, Lonnie Walker on these types.
Mm-hmm.
We have our own defensive wing, and that has completely dropped off along with the offense that was already at a very low baseline. But to me, I just want the defense to return. Everything else is a cherry on top to me. I'm not expecting Vanderbilt to become some elite finisher around the rim, have a floater game, corner, three-pointer, all that. That ship has sailed for me. That is far into the ocean. I think the defensive stuff can still be something real. And I saw it last year. Somebody got in his ear and told him, you are the enforcer on this team. And he took that to heart too much. He was beefing with Julius Randle and Naz Reid and Anthony Edwards in game one before he stepped on the court. It's just, let's be productive first. But yeah, that's where I'm at with Vanderbilt. I still think there's a defensive player in there. The offensive player, I feel like, has left a long, long time ago.
All right, let's talk about forwards, which there's some overlap there with wing and forward and stuff like that. But forwards for right now are basically LeBron. I would lump Rui into that group, right? He'll play some power forward. I would lump Vando into that group. He should be playing power forward basically only. No, I guess he plays some. He's in that weird spot, but there's that overlap there. The forwards, your starting point is LeBron, and that's a pretty damn good starting point. And I would say this is one of those spots where, like, your starting point with the guards were Austin and Luka. You don't need a whole much more to be considered good at that spot. In this case, your starting point is LeBron, and your backup is Rui. That's a strength. Their forwards I would consider a strength.
Yeah, strength. Obviously, starting with LeBron is a strength. I think the context of Rui on this roster makes it more of a weakness, right? Because I think what he's good at obviously ties in with LeBron. I think he and LeBron play the same position, basically as fours that need to play the four position. They can't play the five for long stretches, and they aren't mobile enough to play the three anymore night to night. And that's where I think that position to me, we need more of an athletic player. Even the team build, Anthony, around a Luka Doncic team versus an Anthony Davis team is different to me. Like you now have your shot creation coming from the guard spot, less from the center spot, right? We would run a lot of post ups and stuff through AD. Now all your stuff is coming from the guard spot. That means all the other positions to me, you need to be a plus defensively and good enough offensively. And that's where to me, I think Rui is a fine four. But you mentioned the LeBron minutes are going to be at 38, 37, whatever they're going to be at. That leaves Rui most of his minutes at the three position. And so that's to me is where I have trouble saying this is like a strength of the team, even with LeBron being part of it. And it's why, again, I've just been really advocating go get a wing that can play somewhat two-way. Wiggins is the only guy that I can think of right now, but even like a Marcus Smart, I would be open to on a buyout type situation if you can go grab him. I know he's not a forward per se, but basically plays that 3 and D and 3 position. But yeah, that's where and again, I'm gonna use this time to just continue to promote. Like this is where I think Bazley is so fascinating, more athletic than Vando, way better. His ball handling's on a different universe. A guy that's averaging 14 a game, and you can get him, I think, on a minimum deal, but. If you don't have him, I think you're just athleticism is extremely down, even with LeBron James highlighting this group. You mentioned, who else did you mention in the 4 spot? I guess I would put Vando here, essentially. I think Vando can play 3 because his offensive role is meaningless. But yeah, LeBron, Rui, Vando. Am I missing a 4 within that? I think that's it, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, Luka technically, because he guards
That's right.
that player type.
Good point.
All right, I'm gonna address this dude once because this dude just won't drop it. This Mixel Fix or whatever your name is. You keep on saying that like Austin shouldn't start and Austin this and Austin that, and I keep on getting this nonsense. And it's like, all right, you saw this guy against a brutal matchup where he was your point of attack defender going up against Anthony Edwards during his ascendancy. Austin was also dealing with a foot thing that apparently wasn't letting him walk right between games. And like all this dude did last year was drop 25 and 5. Look up the number of players who dropped 25 and 5 last year. It's just fucking crazy, man. It's crazy to sit here and say like this. Oh, no way you can start Austin Reaves. No way. What it comes down to is a lot of people, like I think a lot of people overrate Austin because he's white, and I think there's a lot of people who underrate Austin because he's white. And I think what's going on here is look, would I prefer the Lakers have a better option here who was a little bit better than Austin and Austin could come off of the bench? Yeah, that'd be great because then you'd have a freaking super team. But that player isn't available to the Lakers. And if you're basically like not starting Austin for the sake of starting Jared Vanderbilt, who I'm not convinced is an actual NBA player. I'm not kidding. He's not good enough defensively to make up for how terrible he is offensively. What are we doing here? Start Vando instead of Austin. Just like it's just nice that some people just walk around with an "I'm stupid" tattoo on their forehead. Stop with that nonsense. He played a bad series. He was fucking great last season. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and I think if you go back and look, Austin has moments in that series as well that would be forgotten. I feel like a lot of clutch threes in game 4, game 3 is what it was. You talked about he was hurt as well going through that. You mentioned the numbers 25 and 5. And I keep trying to point out we did this in this group, but Lakers starting backcourt defensively is not Austin and Luka Doncic. Luka does not guard the other team's 2 guard, right? He is guarding a forward, a guy he can stand, who's standing in the corner that he can kind of technically rest on defense, or if you put it nicely, glass half full. He's using his smarts to be an off-ball type defender. I was having this argument with people in Vegas, Anthony, but I think Austin's he's a fine on ball chaser defender. We do this thing where defense, we just group it all into one bucket. Are you good? Are you bad on defense? We don't do that with offense. With offense, we're like, are you a good shooter? Can you cut? Do you have ball handling? Defense, we're like, are you good or
We
bad?
talk about defense.
Yeah, so that's where I think Austin's a really good chaser on defense. You could throw, we put him on Steph Curry. I'm not saying he shut down Steph, but I felt like we were able to at least survive with him in that role. Does he get picked on sometimes on switches? Yeah, guards who have a high offensive responsibility get picked on, with switches. We saw it with Luka. We'll see it with Austin. People try to take away their legs, but yeah, this idea that they can't play together. I mean, I find that ludicrous. And you're seeing some of that this summer.
It's also, Raj, part of the reason people think of Austin in a certain way is because Luka got there. They had never played together, and they handed the keys to Luka. And I'm not saying that this is I was on it was either my show or the I think I did Real GM Radio yesterday with Wes. No, it was on my show that I said this. I actually think the offense got worse when Luka got to the Lakers, just in terms of what they allowed themselves to do and their production. I would like to see the numbers and all that stuff. We could look at the Lakers offensive rating before and after Luka, but I'm just talking about options. And before Luka got there, they had this identity, and it was a heavy pick and roll identity. And it was Austin sometimes on the ball, and it was LeBron sometimes on the ball, and sometimes it was with AD as the fulcrum of the offense, operating at the high post. And they had all these things, and it's because they had an entire offseason and an entire training camp, an entire season to that point to iron out a lot of those kinks. And then by the time that Luka got there, and they had a few months to put together an offense before they get to the postseason, and they played against a Minnesota team that was defending their asses off, that offense that was once a fairly modern conceptual offense. It was a diverse offense. It became Luka ball, and it became Luka dominating the ball, holding the ball for 17 seconds, and either shooting with the next 5 or so seconds after that, or passing off a grenade to somebody. And sometimes it was Austin, sometimes it was LeBron. And I hated the type of offense that the Lakers were running. And I think a lot of times that is reflected poorly on LeBron's playoff performance. And it's really reflected poorly on Austin's playoff performance, especially offensively. And if we get any kind of interaction between LeBron and Luka and Austin in this upcoming season, a lot of the people who were like, Austin can't play with Luka, are going to look really stupid. But if we don't see that, and if it is just straight Luka ball for all 82 games next year, then okay. Then yeah, if you're turning Austin into a 3-and-D defender, then you should probably just employ a 3-and-D defender. But if first, while Austin is on your roster, you should see if you could run an offense diverse enough to take advantage of his strengths too.
Yeah, and I think he was one of the people that was harmed the most by not playing a big man, right? A lot of when we went to our small ball lineups, a lot of it was switched by Minnesota, and I just thought you didn't give him a ball screen pairing, and that hurt Luka as well. But obviously, I think Luka's just more of a creator in isolations, and even then he was struggling in the fourth. But yeah, I think all that stuff played together, and that's why I think Ayton will be helpful, not just for Luka, but I think for Austin as well, as a ball screen partner, a guy to run pick and roll with. That's where I think Austin has taken his biggest offensive jump. So yeah, just ludicrous takes over the summer. I mean, in terms of who fits with who, in terms of what the roster is, and how they struggled in the playoffs. I think people are forgetting how incredible of a second half Austin had. Not just the 25-5. I think it was over 40% on pull-up threes, almost a 90% free throw shooter, right? Got to the line, bunch of clutch shots throughout the second half of the regular season. All that forgotten because of a few games in the playoffs, which I understand. That's the place where you are judged
and it's the
last
most.
We saw him. Yeah, so we'll see.
All right, let's move on to the center spot, and it's a lot better now. I think, based on listening to LFR, listening to Jovan, talking to people in Vegas, I think I'm probably the highest person on DeAndre Ayton right now out there. And it all just comes down to very cynical. This dude wants to continue making a lot of money playing basketball, and the only way that he'll be able to do so is to have himself a career year this season. And I think he's still capable of it. I went back and watched the stuff that he was doing when he was engaged in Portland last year. And I'm not saying that he's going to be fully engaged for 82 games. He's never going to do that. But can you get an engaged and healthy DeAndre Ayton for 60, 65, 70 of those games? And if you do, you are now worlds better than you were last year. I really love the idea that he's a lob threat, but not just a lob threat. He's a paint finisher. So he can punish switches. If he gets a pick and roll and it's not a dunk, it's not a miss, right? Like if the Lakers would have employed Clint Capella and he wasn't getting a dunk, it was a miss. If Jared Vanderbilt is in a pick and roll and he doesn't have a wide open dunk, and maybe sometimes even when he does have a wide open dunk, it might be a miss. With Ayton, he's an elite finisher. I think he's going to get to the free throw line far more frequently than he did with Portland. And like, I know like Pete the other day was like, the difference between getting your butt kicked by the uber physical Minnesota Timberwolves team that we saw last year and something else is DeAndre Ayton. I kind of pushed. I allowed him to push back on that. I actually think now, yeah, I think it is going to be a big difference. So the center spot, it's still not where it needs to be because I don't think Jackson Hayes is very good. And beyond him, it's two-way guys.
Christian Koloko, yes.
Yeah, who's playing really well, by the way. We're recording this while the Lakers and Celtics are playing in a summer league game. And Koloko has been looking really good. But yeah, I would say that I would consider them slightly below fine, but I would still say that they have like there's a very clear path to being slightly above fine.
Yeah, got to speak to Danny Meringue, who covers the Blazers. Also met Sean Highkin in Vegas, and they both said very glowing things about DeAndre Ayton, at least as a person. I'm hopeful knowing that he's able to contribute. I just think his level of offense is just at a different level than we had got that second half of the season with Luka Doncic. I mean, going from Jackson Hayes to DeAndre Ayton is a canyon size gap in terms of what they can do when they can catch the ball, where they can catch the ball, where you can throw it, how you trust their hands. Jackson Hayes, obviously a great vertical spacer, but that if he's not catching it above the rim, you really don't want the ball anywhere near his hands. But DeAndre Ayton is not that guy. Now that comes with a lot of other things. That means when Ayton is open, that ball better be there. Because he can say whatever he wants right now within the game. That ball's not there. There's going to be some effects of that. But his numbers, Anthony, I wrote about this as well. His numbers are absurd last year, 7 straight years of double doubles, but incredible finisher. You look at the NBA.com maps, they have the green for, when a player shoots well from that area, red when they're not. His hole inside the paint is just green. It's just just extremely talented offensive player, jump hook, mid-range jump shots. Sometimes takes too many mid-range jump shots, but I think to your point, the offensive ceiling of that team, I think, can really hit another level. And my favorite part about him, and I think this is the part that people miss on the Minnesota series, because it's very easy to look at Rudy Gobert, who had 50 and 30 rebounds, whatever it was in game 5 to close us out. I still will not die, but, will live on the hill that we lost that series offensively because we could not score. And I think part of that is because we had no counter to switches. So they can just have Jaden McDaniels guard Rui Hachimura, right? Who was the screener for Luka and a lot of the possessions. You can't put Jaden McDaniels on DeAndre Ayton. That's just something you can't do when Ayton is engaged and is, looking to score. That is someone that he can really bully and put in the post. And there's a lot of wings like that. He did that against us in 2021. We switched Caruso on Ayton. We switched KCP on DeAndre Ayton, and he absolutely ate us alive that series, even before AD got hurt. So that's the hope. I think Jackson as a backup, I'm going to use the F word you don't like, but I think that's fine. Like, I think Jackson as a backup is fine in a regular season. Stands, we'll see in the playoffs. But and then hopefully, I think Koloko is just a solid third big that I hope that they learn from last year and keep him with the team and kind of growing with the roster instead of, being added too late and never really getting a chance, and then promising Alex Len a spot and never using it. So hopefully never see Alex Len again. I'm sure a nice guy, but but respectfully,
Ross just
obviously.
disappeared. Alex Len.
Respectfully, basketball wise, I'm sure he's a nice person, I think. But Christian Coloco, yeah, I think is just a better basketball player today and will be next season, and hopefully they keep him along for the ride as well. I do think he's eligible. He's eligible for one more year on a two-way. So
Yeah.
the Lakers want to financially save some. They can go ahead and offer him another two-way. Now, whether Christian Coloco wants that is an interesting conversation as well.
I don't know how many options Coloco has still. But
yeah,
it should be updated here. Unfortunately, Raj, your dude is being wheeled off in a wheelchair.
who?
Bazley.
Oh,
Bazley
no.
went for a spin move and didn't get up. So,
Oh, man.
unfortunately, that's just tough.
Hopefully
Yeah,
it's nothing serious. Yeah.
Obviously prayers out to Bazley. Hope he's okay. He's had such a brutal career. He looked
Yeah.
really good. He was a first round pick by OKC, which is normally a good indicator of what you're capable of. He went to Denver, looked really good for Denver. Those guys loved him over there. And then he, I think, tore his ACL, right? Really wrecked his knee in a really ugly injury, too. It was one of those was like, ugh, like as you were seeing it.
Yeah.
And now here he is hurt again. So, prayers out to Bazley. Hope he's okay. And, we'll just kind of keep our fingers crossed. But yeah, the Coloco thing is interesting because he at one point was a rotation player on a playoff team before he had that heart thing, the blood clotting thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like. I mean, he was a smaller role on that rotation player, but he was still a rotation player on that Raptors team. Had a really bright future ahead of him. I was shocked that the Lakers were able to get him on a two-way in the first place. And I figured, all right, if you're going to, and this is what kind of has driven me crazy about this organization, is you get this opportunity to get somebody we know is an NBA player. And I just don't think they did very much to really develop him last year. I thought he was fairly similar at the end of the year to what he was at the beginning of the year. And that's in a center rotation that, again, like, was headed up by Jackson Hayes for most of the season. I thought, when he was put into a situation where he needed to start, I thought he acquitted himself quite well. And no, he's very slight of frame, and I think that's always going to limit what he can be as a center. But if the Lakers put together a unit that just gets up and down the court and is running constantly, I think he is the center for that kind of a team. He's a lot faster than Jackson. I actually think he can get higher up above the rim than Jackson can. The problem with both of those guys is that if they get bumped, their jumping ability just falls off of a cliff.
Yeah.
But I look, I was hoping, honestly, Raj, that they wouldn't have to keep him on a two-way and they would just give him like the spot that Jackson currently has on the roster. But unfortunately they brought Jackson back. And there's so much about the Jackson Hayes signing that I don't like. But the biggest thing about it is that if you're keeping Jackson and you have Coloco and you have Ayton, there's just not very much diversity in that big group. And I could lump Maxi Kleber into that group, but eventually the hope is to move him. So it's kind of hard to lump him in because the hope is to move him and because he hasn't been good at basketball in the last couple of years. So yeah, I was really hoping that they would be a little bit more creative, maybe bring in a Chris Boucher or a Precious Achua, into that spot instead. But yeah, that's where they currently stand there. So I would say, unless they do a little bit of work, they're still slightly below 5.
I totally forgot Maxi Kleber. I always forget he's on the team somehow. I don't put him into any of these conversations because We saw him for 2 minutes. Does not look like. I mean, his Instagram photos look like he's in shape. So that's great. But I think Jackson's another level of at least just jumping athlete than Koloko is. But I think Koloko just has a better understanding of defense. A guy that's really better as a team defender. I've said this many times. I think he was the best defensive big that I've seen in G League. Just seeing a bunch of teams come through. He's already had like 7 blocks in through the 3 games. Have not seen what he's done tonight yet, but yeah, just a very talented to me defensive center prospect that was very highly regarded throughout the league before you mentioned the blood clot issue that he had. And yeah, I just thought that he needed more NBA minutes, not to change as a player, but just to get used to the physicality. There was stuff like he's used to the type of fouls in the G League that he's not going to get on the parent team. So whenever he would come in, he would get hit and look at the ref and go, "Hey man, I got fouled." And the ref's like, "Not here," so you're not getting that call here. That's the stuff that he needs to work through in terms of the physicality and the finishing at the rim, stuff like playing through contact. But again, it's a guy I would invest in. Like if you can find minutes for him on the parent team, I would really try to invest in his development. But yeah, I would like him to move up to that second big spot. I think Jackson is probably trusted more in a regular season environment. But I do think if you can give Koloko a season-long kind of reign here, minutes with Luka, LeBron, Austin, to kind of gain some continuity, I think you'll see some of the fruits of that. But Ayton definitely highlights this group. And I think Ayton engaged on both ends, which is important. I think Ayton has some defensive talent as well that he doesn't always choose to show. If Ayton can be engaged on both ends, then I think this jumps his position to a really, a much better spot than it was last year, which is all you were kind of hoping for with getting Ayton for free. And hopefully Koloko is able to stay on the team. But yeah, I would expect Koloko to pick up the 2-way. I'm guessing Jamison is the only guy right now on that spot. I would expect Jamison to lose his 2-way or Jamison to lose his 2-way. Just does not look like an NBA player, sadly, because he's a really fun dude to watch and root for.
Yeah.
But just does not translate on
It
the
looks like
floor.
he got bigger this year.
I don't know if that was possible, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's because he's playing against like summer league guys and not NBA players, but
yes,
he just looks bigger out there. He hasn't fought anybody all summer league, which I'm kind of disappointed by. Yeah, I we'll see what happens with that 2-way spot for Jemison, but I would say he probably starts the year with that 2-way and then, maybe loses it at some point within the year. They really cycle through their 2-way guys last year, and I think we're going to see that again this year. All right, let's talk about really quickly realistically constructed. And I think most realistically you can take it to the bank that Shake Milton is probably going to be waived. In this scenario, do you want to consider Jordan Goodwin being waived too so that they get access to the full biannual?
I wouldn't expect him to be waived. Doesn't feel like it. I don't know. This does not seem like something that they're going to do. I'd expect Jordan Goodwin to be on the team next year. I think Shake's the only guy that they would waive. I don't know how much money exactly that gets them to, but yeah, I would not expect Jordan Goodwin to be to it. Maybe a consolidation trade opens that up, but yeah, I can't see them waiving Goodwin just to open up money. I don't see that happening.
It depends on who the money would be for.
Sure.
I think. But because we know that they were in on Bradley Beal, right? We also know they were in technically on Damian Lillard too. But if they were in on Bradley Beal, they would have had to open up their full biannual exception, which means they were prepared to do something to bring him in. It wouldn't surprise me, Raj, if there was an actionable consolidation trade on the table right now in some way, shape, or form that the Lakers could just accept now if they needed to. I think they're trying to hold out so that they could maximize the return and not just make that trade for the sake of opening a roster spot and opening the biannual exception. Now, as far as the what they would do with a roster spot here, I think we could probably pencil in Gary Payton the second, or yeah, it's the second, right? He's not.
Yes.
He's not junior.
No.
We could probably pencil in Gary Payton the second as a possibility here if they open up 2 roster spots. I think they would like to have Marcus Smart get bought out and have him be they would use the biannual on him. Outside of that, I don't see too much else happening. I don't know that they would be able to open a third roster, or a third roster spot. Realistically speaking, I get, yeah, I don't know how they would even do that.
Yeah, it would have to be a consolidation trade, I'm guessing,
It would
into
a 3-for-1 and you waive Milton, basically, is
right.
how.
I mean, it's the Wiggins deal, right? It's Rui, Dalton, and a first, right? And you waive Shake, which I think would open up, a few roster spots there. That's kind of the deal that you would have to make. I don't see that deal happening anymore.
That's for the hopefully constructed.
Right.
We'll talk about that here in a second. But as realistically constructed, like a better way to ask this question, Raj, is what would you say is a realistic ceiling for this team? Where would you realistically put the Lakers going into next
Yeah,
season, in terms of rankings in the West?
probably fourth. That's probably where they're at right now. And again, like Luka Doncic on your team helps not just the floor, but also the ceiling. Like what season you get from Luka? Do you get a MVP, F everybody? Like I'm going for, I'm trying to destroy worlds type season, then that can kind of jump you, right? If you have the best player in the world on your team, I think that jumps you, to another level. But just currently comparing rosters for what Houston did, I think Denver got better. Always, Oklahoma City is going to bring back everybody, and they paid everyone. That already drops you down to 4. That's kind of where I'd have them sit at. I think they're better than Dallas. Trying to think of the teams, better than San Antonio.
Clippers?
I think they're right there with the Clippers. I think it's pretty. I'm not really high on the Beal addition for them, so I feel like Norm Powell out for Beal coming in doesn't really do a lot for
Well,
me.
it's Norm Powell and John Collins
And
out.
John Collins, yeah, wasn't as high on John Collins either, but yeah, I think they're gonna be
Beal
fine.
and
They're
Richard
they're all
Collins, yeah.
they're all dependent on Kawhi's health, and so that's a huge question mark for them. But I would put them in a similar tier as us. I don't see them as much better. And
I
so
would
yeah,
put them below the Lakers for me,
okay,
because I
okay.
just can't rely on Kawhi being
Kawhi,
healthy,
yeah, played
you know?
30 plus games last year, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Did play in the playoffs, so they did get a playoff Kawhi appearance. But yeah, I'd put them around there if they're healthy, of course. And so 4, 5 right now, and maybe you can improve that with the deadline edition and how well Aiton plays. Maybe that jumps you to a 3. I think Houston's above them, but I wouldn't put them that much ahead. I mean, I think Houston got a lot better, obviously adding KD at re-signing their centers. But I find that closer than others, but Denver getting Cam Johnson like that's a steal. And then obviously Oklahoma City won 68 games last year. Can't see why they would drop off in any sense. So yeah, 4th, 5th is like realistic to me next season.
Now, what would you say is if everything were to break right for the Lakers, they make the Wiggins deal that you're hoping for,
Yeah,
and they go into the season with the starting group of Luka, Austin, Wiggins, LeBron, and
eight,
Ayton, plus Rui coming off of the bench somehow. He's not included in that Wiggins trade as well.
yeah,
They add GP2. Maybe they also add Marcus Smart, or maybe they also add maybe they make the Robert Williams trade so that you're back up to DeAndre Ayton as Robert Williams. What would you say is a realistic tier that the
yeah.
Lakers could get to? Not a semi-realistic tier that you think the Lakers could get to if all your hopes and dreams come true.
Yeah. I think like again, I'm gonna use the preface of I get a motivated Wiggins and motivated Aiton. I think that's a 2 seed. Like I put them right under OKC probably. Just the way the skill sets mesh and the talent that's on the team. I'm assuming also there's no real drop off from LeBron from last year, right? He's still the
Mhm.
25 and whatever he averaged. I think that can be a 2 seed if all things break right. You get health from your whole starters and relative health from your bench guys. Austin continues the lead that he's on, the trajectory that he's been on. I don't see why that can be a 2nd seed type of team, and that's why I'm very high on the Wiggins addition. I'd probably pay more for him than most people would, but just for the urgency of what next year could be. But yeah, I think if everything breaks right, why not? Like you have Luka Doncic, LeBron James, and I think Austin Reaves, which can to me argue for best three in most against most teams, especially with where the East is sitting, like how few good teams there will be next year in the Eastern Conference. In the West, you have these teams that are still relatively young, like Houston's still relatively young, San Antonio's still relatively young. All these teams that are on the upward trajectory but don't have the playoff experience. And so I think second seed makes a lot of sense. I would just give OKC their let them get that one seed, let them chase whatever they're going to do with that. But I think 2 to 3 is a more than realistic, scenario for that type of team.
Yeah, I think the highest ceiling that I can give the Lakers is that by the end of the season, by the time we are approaching the playoffs, I think they have a semi-realistic shot at winning a championship.
Mm,
To maybe even realistic shot at winning a championship. The big thing for me is I need to see what schedule, like the Lakers schedule. I can't wait for schedule release day
mm,
because if the Lakers start the season with their hair on fire and now all of a sudden like you're looking at an optimized DeAndre Ayton and you're looking at a holy shit MVP type season from Luka and you're looking at a LeBron James who, realizes, okay, this is my only place. This is the only chance I have at winning another championship. Let's make the best of it. Let's see what I can do here. We see more, cooperation, especially offensively, from LeBron, Luka, and Austin. And if they start the season with an easier slate because the NBA backlogs their schedule again, and they get to like I don't know January as a top 3 seed, and now the front office is looking at like, okay, it doesn't take as much. I feel like we've been having the same fucking conversation for like 4 years. But it's like if we get to the to January when trade rumor season starts happening in anticipation of February, and the Lakers are a top half of the playoff standings seed, meaning 4 and up. I could see the Lakers making enough progress at the deadline, and Luka and LeBron maybe being special enough to you get to the end of the season and you're like, all right, they're a favorite in their first round. They're a slight favorite in their second round. It's dead even in the third round, and they would be favored in the fourth round because whoever comes out of the East is going to suck. Um, that I think is the most we can hope for, right? I'm
yeah,
not saying it's realistic. I'm saying that's the most that we can hope for in this upcoming season.
yeah, I can see that. I was one of my favorite quotes recently was I forgot where I heard it, but they're like almost winning is not winning, right? Like there's no I almost won or I was close to winning. Winning is just winning. And that's
Yep.
why that's why I'm high on the Wiggins deal. That's why I think winning is important next season. And there's all we do this thing where we're trying to evaluate. Well, maybe they'll believe in the team if they almost are winning, if they're like the 2 or 3 seed. I don't know how much that impacts really the moves they'll make at the deadline, but yeah, that's why I think just filling out as much as talent on the roster as you can. I know there's this 2026, I would say, is really the plan that's going on. 2027 is what's being advertised, but I think it's more next summer is what they're kind of angling towards. But I still think next season is important. I think this team has a chance to do something. I just think you look at the league as a total, the amount of contenders have completely dropped. You had an Indiana team make the finals last year. I know they weren't in the Western Conference, but I think if you have enough talent and just some, roster that makes some kind of sense, you can make a legit run. And I think the Lakers are in that position. I honestly believe if they had a center last season, they probably beat Minnesota, and then you get a Warriors team
Minnesota,
that,
by the way, like the way that the people are talking about the Lakers is how they probably should be talking about Minnesota. They actually got worse this offseason, and people are talking about the Lakers like they got worse. Minnesota got worse this year. Look, I know Kevin Durant is a special talent and all of that stuff, but when was the last time he mattered in a playoff series? Like, when was the last time the team he was on mattered at all in the playoff picture? So until I see that again, I'm not gonna like write the Houston Rockets in ink as a finals contender.
Yeah, yeah,
The Oklahoma City Thunder had a dominant season, especially regular season last year, but they went to 7 against a pretty flawed Denver team, and then went to 7 and was in a close game at home in that game, that 7th game, before Tyrese Halliburton's Achilles split. So it's like, I don't see, and by the way, in this era of parity, it's not going to take as much work for the Lakers or any team to jump a tier here or there, because everything is balanced out. Just like the lottery odds are balanced out, everything is balanced out in this NBA, and it's all going to be about matchups. So like it's why I get so frustrated hearing about how, hearing this shit firsthand sometimes, where it's like, oh, well, we're not really sure about this, we're not really sure about that. And I'm like, you have Luka Doncic and LeBron James coming off of the season that he just had. What are you talking about? Oh, we're not sure about this. How many other opportunities are you going to have at this team that you're having right now? You're positioning yourself for this exact scenario where you get a top 5 to 10 player to pair with Luka Doncic. You're in that scenario right now. Let's try to maximize that scenario and then go out there and position yourself for the next version of it. So yeah, I think there's a world here where the Lakers get a little bit better for the rest of this offseason, get a little bit better in the regular season, take some organic or internal steps forward compared to what we saw from them last year, and become, a 50-something win team that gets better next year, is a 55 win team next year.
yeah.
56 win. I could see that world.
Yeah, JJ also gets a full camp with Luka as well, right?
Yeah.
Gets his roster at the beginning of
Make
the season.
subs in the fourth quarter of a playoff game.
Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, gets a chance to really get the whole summer. And it seems like a guy that lives and breathes this stuff. So I'm sure he's already has everything, planned out. But just gets a summer with Luka, gets a summer with the roster, understanding who he wants to play instead of being thrown into this 3-month run. Which again, they had success in the second half of the season, found some lineups that worked. Death lineup that I helped coin at the end of the year that I thought was really successful. But I think it's nice to have a full camp, and again, hopefully a roster that makes a lot of sense. One more defensive wing, and I think we can get to work here. But until then, we'll see what the roster looks like. But yeah, some optimism still with the roster. Hopefully constructed as you pointed, as you named. I think there's still some hopefulness even with July ending in about, in 2 weeks.
All right, let's get to the super comments and then get you out of here, Raj. First one comes from Jason Kelly. I hate the idea that LeBron's contract hurts the Lakers. Look at all the guys we're paying who can't play. That's the years of bad transaction windows. Yeah, I've thought that the LeBron stuff this year has been pretty crazy, honestly. Case in point, Raj, I've been laughing about this. Pete and I have been laughing about this. I wrote an entire article talking about how LeBron is likely to remain with the Lakers, not this year, but maybe again next year, and he would still likely retire with the Lakers. That's based on intel that I feel very, very good about. And the one bit that has gone viral was that he's been frustrated with the front office over the last few years, which is not some like, holy shit, like epiphany,
Not new,
of course
yeah.
he's been frustrated with them. They haven't pushed their chips into the middle of the table while he just rips off great season after great season after great season. And so like I'm with Jason here that, the idea that you shouldn't be paying a top 5 to 10 player last year $50-something million is insane to me.
Yeah, I never even, I don't know, that never even crossed my mind as an option of LeBron taking any money less. Now he took like $1 million or something less last season to give the Lakers some room under, I believe, one of the aprons. But
second
apron. Aside from that, I just never even considered that a possibility. So yeah, LeBron was going to get his money. It's deserved. I think there was, some questions of if you were wanted to leave, then why opt in, that type of stuff. But LeBron was never leaving $50+ million on the table. That was always going to be banked before he made his decision, and rightfully so, has earned that. But yeah, the money question to me was just never something I even entertained. Just LeBron was going to get his money. You can evaluate everything after that, but that was always going to be something that happened this summer. He was not taking less money to help the Lakers maneuver around as he did a year ago. Was it only been a year? The DeRozan, Jonas Valanciunas, and Klay Thompson trio showed up as a team, as a trio that he would take less for. But yeah, I didn't see that happening this summer.
It also doesn't help that when LeBron offered to take less, the Lakers didn't accomplish the thing that he was willing to take less for. So he's kind of like, well, then why did I even offer? Like, Phil writes, Anthony, remember when you were praising Vando and saying the Lakers turned him into a 3-and-D wing? You praised him a lot, but never bring that up. Look, I have a daily show, sometimes more than daily. Oftentimes, especially during the season, it's twice daily. I have said a lot of things over the course of my career and over the course of the time that Jared Vanderbilt has been on the team. What I can confidently say is that I have never mentioned Jared Vanderbilt as a 3 anything. I could maybe say that he was a good wing defender and stuff like that, but I never, ever, ever would have implied that Jared Vanderbilt added the 3 part to the very important 3-and-D wing. Also, let's say I was super duper drunk and I said that and I shouldn't have. He's gotten worse as a basketball player over his time with the Lakers. Watch him from right when the Lakers made the trade to and compare that to now. And it's a completely different player. It's just like a night and day type of player. And here we are.
He's the first like D&D wing. It's just like defender wing. Like
I think he's
D&D.
more like he's the first ever and player. You watch him, you're like, it's like the Dude, Where's My Car? Did you ever watch that movie? That's a bad question. No. Do you know what that movie is?
I've heard people say like, Dude, Where's My Car? I don't really know exactly like where it's from.
But so Dude, Where's My Car was like Ashton Kutcher and Stifler from American Pie movies. And there's a scene where they go to it's pretty racist, but they go to a drive-through Chinese food place, and the person who's on the other end of the line keeps saying and it's like,
I see.
And so he like puts in his question, he's like chow mein, and then like and then it's like pork rolls, and then so like he's trying to end his order and he's like no and then. And I feel like with Vando, every time I'm watching him, it's like, and then what? Like you have he does have the beginnings, I think, of a good player. You look at that guy and he looks like somebody who should be incredible at basketball. He's 6'8", he's chiseled, he can jump like crazy, he is willing to be physical, he's willing to go out there and body people up a little bit. But then you like watch him when he actually has a basketball and you're like, what the come on.
Yeah. I always remember his first game
on the dribbling in the office
on the road against the Warriors. I think Anthony Davis was out or didn't. No, LeBron didn't play. AD kind of struggled, but Vando was awesome, pushing the basketball in transition, defensive guy, threw him on, all their players, and was just super impactful. And was a guy that I think he got the Laker fans' hearts in game 1. People loved Jared Vanderbilt right away, and I think earned the 4-year, $40 million contract that he got. But yeah, hopefully he has a bounce back season. This is the bounce back. So hopefully that, that happens this season. So
they need it. All right, Raj, I have kept you here far too long. I hope everybody goes and checks out that article, the piece that you just dropped for Silver Screen and Roll. I will go check it out as well. I'll give it an RT once I see it on my timeline again. And thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you for the starred comments. Thank you for the stirring debate within the chat. That has been fun to watch as well. And until the next time you guys hear from us, I'm Anthony Irwin. That was Roger Palu. This has been the Lakers Lounge. Have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's, and we will talk to you, or I will talk to you a little bit later tonight. Have a good one, everybody.